Don't miss this month's live Patriot Q&A hour as John Michael Chambers hosts our Patriot Power guest, private investigative journalist Mike King. Get your questions answered. Mark your calendars. June 25th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time sharp. Visit jmcbroadcasting.com and click on the Premium Portal Sign-Up tab. Enter your password and you're in. Not a JMC Broadcasting Premium member yet? You could be. Simply click on the Premium Portal Sign-Up tab. Enter your info, and that's it. John and Mike. Looking forward to answering your questions for the solid hour. See you there. Where we go one, we go all. The controlled demolition of the current financial system and restructure is happening right before our eyes. The current supremacy war is heating up. New tax policies, ending the Federal Reserve and the IRS as we know it. New banking system. How about the US dollar? Are we returning to a gold-backed currency, ultimately en route to a digital currency, a stable coin into an encrypted QFS? By reading the pages of this book and taking advantage of the opportunities within, you will become informed, empowered, and connected with the confidence to act. Saving America and protecting your wealth are not spectator sports. Will you be on the wrong side of history? It requires effort and due diligence, then action on your part. Action changes things. It's time. As we witness the greatest financial reset in history, prepare for a new era free from the shadow and control of the cabal. The future is bright, and it belongs to us, not the corrupt elite. We are mid-transitioning. We've not yet arrived. What's occurring during this transition? Danger. This is the danger zone on the economic and financial battlefield. There is tremendous opportunity to prosper. Strategies, models, and proposed solutions will be defined within the pages of this book. This is indeed a must-read book which should be shared with others. The Global Financial Reset, Surviving and Thriving the Transition. Pick up your copy today of this 5-star rated book at Amazon.com.
Welcome back, June 10th, 2026. My name is John Michael Chambers. We are live here for the Global Financial Reset weekly show every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for joining us. Joining me today in just a moment is my returning guest and contributor, Captain Rob Cunningham. I'd like to make a couple of quick announcements, and we're going to bring Bill Armour on he accommodated me at the last moment to come in and comment on the structures, the movement rather, in gold and silver. So stand by. He'll be with us in just a moment. Who do we see here on the screen? I'll give you a second to think about it. Okay, we're done. Yep, the ring. That is Juan O'Savin. Now, it looks like I'm wearing his boots and he's wearing my sneakers, but it's actually the other way around. We met in Bangkok about a week or so ago, and it was quite hot here, so obviously he's not in his cowboy boots. But anyway, I'm going to share with you some information that Juan shared with me, as well as directing you to the 2-hour and 25-minute broadcast I did with Juan, fresh off the heels of my private meeting with Juan in Bangkok. We thank Juan O'Savin for all of his tireless efforts on all of our behalf. All right, join me and my guests for the premiere launch of the monthly new show, panel monthly show, Off-World with JMC. Premiere launches this coming Thursday, next week actually, June 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern. You don't want to miss this broadcast. These are the esteemed guests that we have for our first launch. We've got, I need to see the images. Alex, let's see. That is Mel Carmine, next image. Alex Collier. We have Alyssa, and we have retired Colonel Chuck Sellers. This is going to be a great panel. We look forward to the premiere launch. We'd like you to join us on the journey together. Come through the portal with us. All right, let me begin. Brief monologue. Actually, you know what? Let's bring in Bill Armour right now. There we go. Thank you, Bill, for being here on the fly. Take your time. I'll just say this, because I chatted with you briefly, and I listened to my esteemed guests over this last couple of years. I know a few things on my own. I just in the process of buying more gold and silver as we speak. But please inform the public of what is going on from the lens of Bill Armour with this big pullback in both gold and silver at this very time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to start by framing all of this with the understanding of what changed, if anything, in the last couple days here to have gold at a little over 4,000, 4,050, and silver at give or take $63. Did anything structurally, fundamentally, massively change that should change our opinions on gold and silver? Nope, nothing changed. So why is this pullback occurring?
Mhm.
Well, the first thing I would say is that what drives these, I mean, individual intraday movements in gold and silver is not the average everyday investor, right? This is massive hedge funds. This is, central bank buying and selling. So they're really the depth and breadth here of the majority of gold and silver that is being bought and sold. And so a good portion of that, not all, but a good portion of that is traders, right? Is people that are going to go in and out here based on where they can make the greatest return in the next 7 days, 10 days, 5 days, maybe even an hour, depending on the asset. So keep in mind any of these big changes or pullbacks don't necessarily affect or change the long-term outlook on gold and silver, but they change the intraday or intraday movement of gold and silver. So kind of just context there that when you're going into metals, and particularly the people that I talk to, are generally not traders. I'm generally not dealing with people that are saying, Bill, what's going to get me the best return in the next 7 days? Because if that's what you're going into gold and silver for, I would say, maybe not the asset for you, right? Because it's a not painful process, but there's a process involved with getting physical metals. So if you're a trader, maybe look to a different asset. Now, if you're a long-term investor, you're looking at what the fundamentals, and that's kind of the first crux of this. Is there's two pieces any investor should look at. You can look at fundamentals or you can look at what are called technicals. Fundamentals are the structural issues that drive the price of an asset. Technicals are, what did the stock or the asset or the commodity do in the last 12 hours, 12 minutes? Is it up, down? You're looking at the charts and maybe you're trading in that. So that's really what is driving this. But I'll get into kind of some of the more, the pieces that have driven this technical change and what this means long term. So if you're just looking obviously at the recent correction in gold and silver and you're saying, oh, what does this mean? I think you're probably looking at the wrong part of the story because, sure, gold and silver have both pulled back, somewhat substantially from their January highs. But if we look at historically what has gold and silver done through bull markets, we can see that this is very, very normal. I've said this in the past here when gold shot up into the 3,000s range and it had a little pullback of a similar magnitude, and then of course what did it do after that? Shot up to 4,500. Now we see another pullback into the roughly 4,000 range. What do we expect next? We expect it to do the same thing it's always done, which is rebound. When gold ran from $250 to $1,900 from 2001 to 2011, we saw corrections of 10, 15, 20, even 30% at different points. But that didn't change the fact that you doubled your money 3 separate times along that journey. And if you were looking at gold and silver at any of those points and saying, oh, gold's down 10% from its high, I guess that means the bull run is over, you were obviously naive because it moved again, it doubled again, and then it doubled a third time. That's almost a 10x return on your money here, 8x return on your money over 10 years. So that's pretty good. That's almost doubling your money here, from that initial point almost every year. So financial media is always going to go, and kind of make a big deal out of this, but this is very, very normal. Bull markets, particularly with metals, they don't climb walls, they climb staircases. And what I mean by that is it's not a straight line. Nothing ever is. You see this kind of up, lag, up, lag, up, lag. And that's very normal. It's very healthy. And it tells us that this is not, fanaticism. This is actually long-term growth. So the biggest difference today from even 2001, 2011, these historic bull markets in metals, is that historically central banks and large hedge funds have been net sellers of gold and silver. What I mean by that is that on average, they were selling more gold and silver than they had. They had some amount and they were generally offloading. For the first time in pretty much anyone that's watching this lifetime, natural, central banks and hedge funds are going to be net buyers, and that's consistent year over year over year for the last several years. World Gold Council puts gold buying demand at records here for 3 years straight. Silver at 4 or 5 years straight. So that's not news. That's what has been consistently understood for a while, and that's why you're seeing this long-term growth in metal. I mean, since the freezing of Russia's reserves in 2022 and a couple other things, we've seen across the board every country in the world loading up on gold net. So the dollar story here, why is that? Obviously, it's a movement away from the dollar. We can go into reasons on why, and I'll try to be a little more brief because I know I've already taken up a decent amount of time. But Specifically, other countries understand the dollar as it exists today, the Fed note, is not something they want to exist in forever. You can see that as I mentioned on a previous broadcast, the British pound didn't lose its reserve status overnight or in one particular day. It was a slow decline and then a crash. You're seeing that with the dollar as well. So you're seeing metals. Government debt, this is where it becomes difficult to ignore. You've got only a few options they can deal with here to handle that. But as we all know, there's a change coming. That is going to be the inevitable option that we run into. If you've got inflation on one and financial repression on the other, you've only got a couple levers they can pull before, again, that implodes in on itself. And silver, maybe even more so by virtue of it being not just a financial metal, but an industrial metal. Again, talked, a lot about that, about the structural issues here with silver. So just to kind of repaint this picture, we've seen historic movements in gold in the last, year, 2 years here. That's not going to change. We're just seeing a slight pullback here before we see likely another launch. So bottom line, correction has changed prices. If you were looking at metals and you had bought anytime there was a correction of 10, 15, 20% historically, you would be, one of the greatest investors in history. So if you're looking at this, I would just say to be the contrarian. When hedge funds, banks, etc., are suddenly, maybe letting a little bit of gold go, letting a little air out of the tires, that's a great opportunity to buy. I'll end with this perhaps, is that my personal understanding is that you've got what's going on with Iran as being a big piece of the gold prices here coming down. Maybe not what people are used to, but when you've got all these Middle Eastern countries that have to still, pay people to build their roads and whatnot, and they've all of a sudden got limited access to sell the oil they've got. Trump just talked about the other day, we took 22 shiploads of Iranian oil back. So that's not oil they're selling. That's oil that they they're not able to sell it. They still have to pay for their roads, pay for whatever the government has. So what are they doing? They have to offload some of that gold. So what is the U.S. doing? The U.S. is scooping up that gold at enormous rates at a much discounted price, and we're getting oil. So this is 5D chess that Trump is playing here. And the U.S. has no need, as long as we're still getting gold and we're accumulating gold at a much, much reduced price, and we're getting oil for free, essentially, that's a win-win. And when we come out of this, just like we've seen every other time in history, when the war ends and interest rates come back down, you see gold and silver shoot back up. So if you have any confidence, as I do, and as many of us do, that Trump is just waiting, but very soon will end this war with Iran, I think that it's child play if he really wanted to. If he really had the initiative to end it, I think there's still some objectives he's accomplishing. But if he wanted to, he would. And then, therefore, you would see gold and silver go back up. The U.S. would benefit from the gold that we've accumulated. Obviously, any investor here that's accumulated metals in the meantime would benefit. So I see this as a tremendous buying opportunity. John, I know that you're taking advantage of that. And I think that anyone should be looking at this just longer term. The short term is great buying opportunity. The long term, the projections, banks haven't changed those. No one is changing the projections on silver or gold. It's just a great accumulation point.
Thank you very much. You've unpacked quite a bit, and a few highlights that I'd like to leave our audience with before you move on to your evening is, first thing you said, the fundamentals have not changed. That, to me, that's, that would have been enough for me, but you unpack quite a bit, and you talk about the trending graph line of going up. You're right. In this trajectory, you have up and down. These are tiny little blips in the trajectory because the fundamentals haven't changed. And I will also introduce to our audience that didn't get to see the episode I did with Juan. I asked him, it's on record, he says the president is going to reset the price of gold at $20,000 an ounce at some point here. And then I misquoted him, said 25. He said, no, not 25,000. North of 20. So he's on the record currently on that trajectory. Same with silver. His position hasn't changed. 200 to 300 an ounce, perhaps by the end of the year. Of course, the naked short selling and the game that the banks have been caught in, they're still caught. And another great point you raised, Bill, is people aren't, you're not in the day trading business or the short-term trending business for quick profit. This is a long-term position or mid to long-term position as a hedge against inflation and a hedge against the Federal Reserve's note, which is strong on the index today, but we know where that's heading. We do
Yes.
know the plan, and the plan has not changed. So thank you very much for that. And I am in the process of, as you know, acquiring another round. I've been buying and selling gold personally for 24 years. So I've got a lot of experience in this as a someone acquiring the metal, but I see this immediately as an opportunity. But I wanted to bring you on for those that are concerned, and I think you've laid down some real good information, folks. If you're in the position to do rollovers, you've been sitting on the fence, so forth and so on. Opportunity knocks, and it's knocking on your front door right now. I personally buy gold and silver. I try and keep a balance of the two. I know that silver is undervalued and in huge demand, different reasons, but with President Trump and team on the record of a potential $20,000 an ounce boost and a floor on silver, I'm buying a little bit of both. So anyway, Thank you, Bill. Any last closing comments? I know you got to go, and then we'll move on with Rob Cunningham is sitting in the digital green room, folks. We got an incredible show lined up. Any closing comments, Bill? And I thank you very much for doing this for me.
Yeah, closing comments is basically what I started with, and that's just that, people, if they come to me and say, "Oh, I'm only looking to do this for a couple of weeks," well, let's say, I would tell them not for you. But anyone that has gotten into metals here for any substantial amount of time, with me, has benefited tremendously. So I would say that if you just take a step back, look at what gold has done over the last 6 months, 12 months, same with silver, you suddenly say, "Oh, wow, that looks really good." And if you're looking to hold this for anywhere from a couple months to a couple years, suddenly, then the projections are incredible. And that's how I would frame this for anyone: is let's look long term. Let's avoid getting stuck and mired in the short term.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much, Bill Armour. You can give him a call. He offers free consults. That rings right to his desk, what you see on the phone on the screen, 310-407-0239. If you get a voicemail, leave a message, mention my name. That might get you a little more fast tracking. I don't know. But give Bill a call. The face you see on the screen is the voice you'll be listening to. Thank you very much, Bill Armour. Appreciate you. We'll see you next week. Will, Bill, and Alex Newman joining us. We're going to introduce Alex to you, gentlemen. So thank you very much, Bill Armour. Appreciate you being here.
Great to be here. Thanks, John. Take care.
All righty. So I'm going to set the tone here to bring us into the zone, and we're going to bring Captain Rob Cunningham on. This is going to be perhaps one of the most educational GFRs that we've held. Why do I know that? Because I scripted 8 questions, and I know Rob's got some information for us. All right, let me begin. The geopolitical vulnerability of sustenance, the old paradigm. While the most apparent breaking points of the current systemic collapse lie within the financial sector, the bond crisis and energy supply, the Hormuz blockade, for example, the dying paradigm operates on a deeper, frequently overlooked matrix of power, the control of the food supply chain. Let's talk about that for a minute. It all connects. It's all economic related. The economic system, built upon infinite growth, utilizes conventional agriculture as a geopolitical weapon. Wars in the world's breadbaskets, Ukraine, and the fertilizer crisis triggered by fossil fuel shortage demonstrates how easily the global population can be forced into existential dependency, key word, through the artificial constriction and control of the basic food supplies. As long as humanity relies on centralized logistics networks, global fertilizer, for example, exports, and the unpredictable whims of weather for its physical survival, any scenario of technological abundance remains inherently fragile. Consequently, transitioning into a new era strictly requires the controlled dismantling of traditional agriculture and the establishment of a revolutionary, decentralized post-agricultural economy. Number 2, the transformation, vertical farming and synthetic biology. Parallel to the massive AI data centers and decentralized energy infrastructures of the new era, a biological pillar is being erected in the shadows to guarantee that the final system reset remains crisis-proof. This pillar rests upon 2 technological foundations: AI-driven vertical farming or indoor agriculture. Now, there's a lot to know about this. We're not unpacking all that in this particular episode. We're just introducing these concepts. The production of vegetables, grains, and crops is being entirely migrated into fully automated vertical indoor complexes, powered by inexhaustible zero-point energy in alignment with the KWAST, KWAST doctrine, and optimized by artificial intelligence. These facilities pardon me, operate 100% autonomously. They are completely independent of geographic location, fertile topsoil, changing seasons, pesticides, and external water or fertilizer deliveries. Synthetic biology and precision fermentation. Cutting-edge bioreactors now allow proteins, lipids, and essential nutrients to be replicated directly at the molecular level. This is above my pay grade, again, needs to be delved into in greater detail, but we'll move through this. This methodology requires only a fraction of the resources consumed by conventional livestock farming and secures an infinite, highly efficient supply of biological building blocks. Food is transformed from a scarce commodity, that's the point here, into an infinitely reproducible technological product. All right, so that's a great change that's taking place to decentralized post-agro-economy, vertical farming, and synthesis, post-scarcity for the common good. Number 3, systemic integration into the new era. This virtually invisible pillar is the missing puzzle piece that completes the strategy implemented by the triumvirate of forward-looking governments and technology magnates, such as the Trump-Musk axis. So dismantling the global monopolies, that's what we're doing. The decentralization of food production strips legacy agriculture conglomerates and oligarch structures of their power to utilize artificial famines, sort of like pandemics on the other side, as a mechanism of population control. The foundation for universal high income, now we're shifting gears, this all ties in economically as well, and decentralized. A universal high income is mathematically and psychologically stable only when the existential baseline needs of humanity, like housing, energy, and food, physically exist in absolute abundance. Imagine that. And cost near zero to produce. The post-agricultural economy delivers this material guarantee. So the restoration of the biosphere, when humanity no longer needs to clear and deplete millions of hectares of land for food production, massive territories can be returned to nature. This harmonizes perfectly with the heightened consciousness of the UAP disclosure, which we'll be getting into next week, initiative. Humanity shifts from being a destructive exploiter to becoming the technological guardian of planet Earth, good stewards of what God gave us. Conclusion, the decoupling of food production from the constraints of nature represents most crucial, unseen pillar of the transition we are in. It transforms the biological struggle for survival into a reliable, universal common good. Only this fundamental independence makes the evolutionary leap of humanity genuinely irreversible. All right, I'd like to bring your attention to this on my website. If we can put up there we go. Okay. You know, you hear a lot of folks out there in the world of podcasters. I've got deep intelligence sources behind me. Some of them do, most of them don't. You want to know who my sources are? I'm going to walk you through them right now. Transparent John. We got Juano Savin. By the way, you go to jmcbroadcasting.com. You click on contributors on the upper left-hand portion of the navigation bar, and you will see what you're seeing on the screen. These are my valued sources. And there's others, and they get entered on as we reestablish relationships and develop new ones. Juano Savin, intel and military background. Next, retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bossi, Special Ops, Australian Army, 24 years. Next, retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt, also with Newsmax. These are the folks that are on my broadcast regularly. These are the experts in their respective areas that I rely on to bring you the truth as they and we know it to be. Next is retired Lieutenant Colonel Matt Met. This is Juan's chief of staff. Go out and meet Juan and Matt and many others at the Fraud Fighter Summit, which is, I think, almost completely sold out. Next is Captain Pete Matisu. He is also part of my Eyes on Gitmo monthly panel. Michael Jaco, you all know very well, part of my Global Defense War panel. You know his history. There is retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox, blasting on the scene really through my network and doing groundbreaking information and ruffling a few feathers along the way, challenging some of his narratives that I stand behind. Thank you, Tom Lennox. Next, you see common denominator here in these folks: military and intelligence and economic background. Here's retired Colonel Chuck Sellers, Delta Forces. We've got Captain Anthony Schaefer. Keep scrolling, please. Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer. Derek Johnson, you all know Derek Johnson, connecting the PEDS, the executive orders, his photogenic mind, right on point. Thank you, Derek Johnson, 45-47. Brad Wozni, Helitac firefighter, great guy, Brad Wozni. Next, Dr. Lee Merritt, 10 years in military service as well. You've got the Patriot Street Fighter, Scott McKay, one of the top Patriot voices for the last many years in this movement. Larry Ballard, relatively new to the scene. We have a special dedicated page for Larry's educational curriculum. Josh Reed, you all know Josh, also 10 years Navy. Dr. Jan Halper Hayes served on Department of Defense Task Force. Sheila Holm, great researcher. Bill Armour, you see every other week here. We know Bill's economic expertise in precious metals. And Will Barney, recovering banker and great source for us. He'll be back next week. And of course, Captain Rob Cunningham will be joining us in just a few moments. Guardian Daniel R has been a great support for me. We've got SG and on. We've got Julie Donuts, who got the attention of General Flynn and President Trump, not once, but twice, and X'd or retweeted her content. She does a weekly report, and our good friend Sean Morgan as well. I think that can, well, no, Christy Allen, very popular, Tsunami of Truth, and Brandon Clark, Strategies for Retirees. I think that concludes it. And there are others. So, I'm transparent. Those are military, intelligence, and economic experts, by and large, that we rely on to bring you the truth, the best of our ability that we know it. So there you have that. I thought that would be good to bring to your attention. You can go study their bios. You can email them and follow their work. Okay, so of course, we're going to update that actually and put the best Q site to go to if you want to understand the Q board. So individuals and entities I follow include Q, President Trump, Scott Bessent, and Elon Musk, to name a few, in addition to the sources I just provided there for you. So having said all that, those that watch me regularly, you can see I've gotten through the first 7-10 minutes here with far less coughing. The naturals that I'm taking and the trip to the hospital has proven to be very beneficial. I'm loaded up on meds, but at least I'm not coughing, and I expect to be on the complete other side of this very soon. I thank you for your patience for the last 6 weeks of my interruptions. We are all seeking the truth. Contributors and many trusted, reliable sources may not always arrive at the same conclusions in terms of what is going on, and particularly dates and so forth. It's a fluid war. It would be incredibly advantageous if we, the people, talking to you and me, if we, the people, would stop some sort of competition match about who's right and who's wrong, and sitting on the couch ready to throw dart if someone missed something a little bit, particularly surrounding dates and anticipated events. Get some skin. Do your own homework. Whittle down your intake of sourced content to perhaps just a few. I provided a lot there for you on my contributors list, and there are others. We have a resource guide page with probably 50 podcasts for you to go take a look at. Find the ones whose message resonates with you, and follow Ronald Reagan. Trust but verify. Then do your own research. Get off the couch. It's not a spectator sport. Apply common sense and trust your higher self. Intuition God gave us. Expectations and date anticipations are in part a source of your own discomfort. You want to expect something? Expect one thing: the unexpected. Time frames at best may serve better than specific dates, except an officially announced date by the administration. So my advice, for whatever it may be worth, I'm not preaching. I mean, I am preaching to the choir. I'm just trying to help all of us calm the nerves on dates and anticipations and expectations. My advice, for whatever it may be worth, is I worry not for that which I cannot control. What a waste of my life's energy. What I can control, I spring into action. So number one, get your sources that you are comfortable with and stay in the lane. Number two, pray, plan, and prepare physically, spiritually, mentally, and financially. And again, worry not for that which you cannot control, and that which you do control, spring into action. And I've got action items at the end of this, at least on the financial side. So remember, divide and conquer? Sure you do. That's what they want. The enemy wants you scattered, shaken, and reactive. Don't fall for the bait. They want us arguing and fighting amongst ourselves. They seem to be succeeding. Let's knock it off. They want you in fear and uncertain. So remain and be still. Calm yourself. Surround yourself with like-minded people who do understand the times in which we live, and expand this circle of influence in your life. Never, ever give up, because I see some of that. And remember, someone once said, faith, hope, and love. Have faith. There is always hope. And I'm not talking about hopium. Be well-founded, and you will be well-grounded. Then help others. That's the phase we should be at right now. Helping the masses that are looking around finally after all our years of work. Help them. So get yourself grounded, founded and grounded, then help others along. There's a lot yet to be confronted, and much just around the corner, in my opinion, coming after July 5th. A lot going to happen between July 5th and the midterms. And just know that everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. God always wins. We are on God's side. Free will, use it wisely. The ultimate victory in this spiritual war is ours, and you know that deep down. So there's a founding and a grounding. And just on the other side of that transition we're in, the golden age will soon be dawning. And I thank you for giving me the time to share my thoughts as my feedback back to the public, reading the comments and getting the emails I peek at. Disclaimer, and before we bring on our power guest, Captain Rob Cunningham, patiently waiting in the digital green room, the information provided by me and my guests is for educational purposes only and is not to be considered as specific investment, tax, nor legal advice. You are encouraged to do your own research and consult your financial, legal, and tax professionals, and go to wealthcoachuniversity.com after the show. Click on the only blue tab you'll see, and it's readable or downloadable, 10 questions that you should ask of your professionals that you are working with to see if they're the right team for you. It's a tool that'll help you for sure. All right. Rob Cunningham, retired Air Force researcher, is the founder of KUWL, a passion project launched in December of 2022, inspired by curiosity, thirst for truth, and a commitment to challenging false narratives. KUWL stands for knowledge, understanding, wisdom, and life, reflecting his mission to share his insights and value through research, analysis, interviews, education, and commentary. And the only reason I do these mini biography introductions time after time, because I know most of our viewers know Rob well, is because new people are piling in every day. And that's good news. So Rob's personal background includes a business degree in management information systems, active duty in the U.S. Air Force as an instructor pilot with combat experience, and a top secret security clearance. He spent 2 years as a major airline pilot, followed by 20 years in investment and mortgage banking, and over 20 years owning and supporting a national leadership sales development company, a most valuable contributor to JMC Broadcasting. I value your time and expertise. Thank you, Rob Cunningham, for being here, sir.
It's an honor to be with you. Thank you for having me, and I'm glad to hear you're feeling better.
Thank you. I was able to get through the monologue with one cough interruption. Good news. I've got meds in me that are conflicting. I got some meds that are codeine-ish and taking me down, and I get other steroids that are pumping me up. But folks, on the naturals, believe me, I got my turmeric, I've got my lemon, I've got my sea salt, I've got my spraying my colloidal silver in my nose, and my oil oregano drops are expected to arrive today. It's not that easy to get everything in Thailand. But anyway, thank you, Rob. Rob, what's your feedback on my monologue and Bill Armour's commentary on gold and silver? Let's begin there. We got a lot to unpack in this episode.
Sure. No, it's great. It's profound common sense in many regards. I'll start with reminding people one of the most valuable lessons I've ever gotten in the financial services business is the importance of liquidity. Liquidity is probably the singular most important thing for healthy functioning markets. And the Federal Reserve plays this game all the time by tightening or easing interest rates, which means they put more liquidity or less liquidity into the system to try to manipulate economic cycles and control the supply of money, which has a derivative fallout effect on everything. But within each individual market, whether it's cryptocurrencies or stocks or bonds or houses or gold or silver, liquidity matters. And so oftentimes, as Bill had said, there's nothing that has fundamentally changed other than maybe there's short traders, maybe there's liquidity issues, maybe people are panic buying into the SpaceX IPO and they're trying to find liquidity, or for whatever reason, liquidity can play a major role across multiple ecosystems for no other reason than liquidity is important. Nothing else changes. So what's going on with the Strait of Hormuz, what's going on with oil, what's going on with the Federal Reserve and interest rates and inflation and all the multitude of factors that are taking place in the world, this is a market for those that need to hold on to their convictions, let their yeses be yes, their nos be no, understand their own thesis for why they bought and held something, and you just can't be scared out of holding a position because of price movement. Price movement in this marketplace is no different than the wind blowing outside on the beach. It's just a part of the game. And so I think Bill's advice and your advice is extremely good. You just know what you own, do your research, make sure your time horizon is correct, and have faith. If you don't have faith and if you can't sleep at night and you're scared of your holdings because prices move, then maybe the entire investing arena is not for you.
To sleep at night. And actually, that's what gold and silver is in the long term. It's peace of mind. And the fundamentals haven't shifted. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I am in the process right now of adding both gold and silver to my depository account. So that's where I stand on these issues, especially off the heels of my long discussions with Juan O'Savin. And I haven't heard the president, Scott Bessent, or anyone else change the narratives on these issues. Rob, I've got a lot of things I want you to weigh in on. We're going to delve into hot wallets and cold wallets and ghost wallets and all kinds of crypto stuff. We're going to cover all different things across the spectrum relating to economic stuff, all current. But before we do, you shared with us some information that I think this would be a good time, if you're prepared, to walk us through some of the messages you'd like to get across to our audience.
Sure. There's three. I think this is a great one to start with. I like to remind people, and I'm sure everyone knows, that number one, we're at war. We're at a multifaceted war, and war is hell. Okay? It wasn't announced, but it has started back in the Garden of Eden, and it ebbs and flows every century and every decade and every nation in humanity. Okay? We're having an economic war, a political war, a spiritual war, a
Mhm.
biological war, a truth war. The media, I mean, the scriptures say the power of death and life is in the tongue. The smallest weapon on earth is the tongue, and words are the bullets. So
Mhm.
my people are destroyed for their lack of knowledge of how people will change definitions, and they'll change meaning, and they'll pervert language, and they'll call us an American national and an alien and a resident and a citizen and I
Mhm.
mean they'll come up with whoever gets to define the term gets to be in control. And so, how do we go from a constitutional republic to we're the greatest democracy in the world? The word democracy doesn't show up in our
Mhm.
Constitution. We're a
Correct.
republic, right? So um, I'm, I say that because I want to remind people what I think is such a confluence for those that have followed the Q boards, the military operation,
Mhm.
President Trump's journey, first time he ever ran for office, doing anything, he becomes president of the United States. I don't think that's ever happened. Okay. Um, what do we have going on this weekend? We have, well, first of all, let me I'm going to read a post that parallels what you're looking
Mhm.
on the screen here. This has to do with the military, has to do with civilians, has to do with media, it has to do with Q, it has to do with every kind of war that we've been involved in that we've just talked about. So they've told us, the media, the powers that be, the centralized forces, that this is Q is it's just entertainment. The fight on the lawn at the White
Mhm.
House on Flag Day, President Trump's birthday, with 4,300 military people on the White House, it's just entertainment. It's just sports. They've told us it's just politics. He's looking for votes for the midterm. They tell you it's just diplomacy. The president of Iraq showing up here the next day or two. Uh, it's just coincidence. All these things happening together that were foreshadowed on the Q drops that Derek Johnson breaks down so brilliantly and others do. So when all these things actually come to fruition, anybody with any mathematical skills can say this is mathematically and statistically impossible for these things to have been foreshadowed on the Q drops and then happen in real life. We call those Q proofs. You can't
Yes, we
say
do.
these 43 things over here, and then over the next 3 years, all 43 of them come true, unless there's a plan, unless there's some actual intentionality behind the messaging. Why would they want to message us? Why would they want to wake us up? Well, maybe because we've been put into a slumber and the media has never told us the truth. The culture's never told us the truth. The classroom has never told us the truth. The regulatory agencies have never told us the truth. We've all just gone along to get along, and we've done the group thing. We've adopted the tradition,
Mhm.
and we didn't want to be called a name, so we just followed in line. So they told us everything was a coincidence. What if, John, none of these things were coincidences? For nearly a
Mhm.
decade, we followed the breadcrumb trail of these cryptic Q messages, warnings, intelligence drops, military symbolism, unexplained events, and impossible coincidences.
Coincidence.
Again and again, a
Absolutely.
single phrase through the noise: the military is the only way. Okay, let's stop there. The President of the United States is the President of the United States from an administrative executive standpoint and the Commander in Chief of the United States military. They're two complete different bodies of law. One is
Mhm.
civilian law, and one is Uniform Code of Military Justice. They have nothing to do with each other. And there are
Mhm.
enormous powers of the Commander in Chief if in fact we're at war and others have declared war and there are enemies, foreign and domestic, inside the United States, and we have to declare war, and the other side doesn't fight fair, they don't fight honestly, they don't put on a uniform, they don't have a badge, we can't identify them, They're blackmailing and bribing everyone. They're weaponizing the monetary system. They're paying off anybody that will take 30 bits of silver for their soul. And then they say, we're from the government, we're here to help. If that's the nature of the war, the only way to get out of it is to outsmart them through intelligence, military intelligence. It can be military solution that does not require bombs and tanks and bulldozers and machine guns. When we say it has to be the military, we have this thing called Space Force. We have the national security apparatus. We have true military patriots that are not television generals, but real committed, God-fearing, oath-giving generals who believe in the oath to defend and protect against all enemies, foreign and domestic, so help me God. They didn't take the bait. They didn't take the buy-off. They believed in their oath. So most have dismissed this. We've been called every name in the book: conspiracy theorists, racists, white nationalists, Q-tards, you name it. But we've been laughed at. Others have been quietly watching. Then the pieces began to snap into place. A president who promised on his very first day in office, January 20th, 2017, he said, we're going to return power to we the people. Money is power. How do you change the money and give it back to the people? You take it away from centralized hands. You make it honest instead of dishonest, and you distribute it to we the people instead of hoard it in the swamp. A nation that is increasingly exhausted by bureaucracy, corruption, illegal invasion, institutional decay, and a permanent ruling class. A military that repeatedly has been portrayed not as distant warriors, but what if they're trusted guardians of the republic? This White House has been transformed into a stage for this Saturday. The most symbolic combat sporting event, a UFC fight in an arena at the White House on Flag Day on President Trump's birthday, being broadcast by Dana White's company, not CNN, not Fox, not NBC, not ESPN. We're going to see 4,300 military veterans intermixed with everyday civilians on Flag Day at a newly renovated reflecting pond at the White House with the President of the United States, military, civilian, government, sports, patriotism, everything coming together on one day. It's a sport event in American history that is going to be broadcast to millions of people and shows service members interacting with civilians. I believe it's a preparatory kind of image because I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of them. We just signed today the Department of Homeland Security got refunded again until the end of President Trump's term. So for the next 2.5 years, we're actually going to get to fund DHS and keep our country safe, our borders secure, and get rid of people that aren't supposed to be here. A media revolution is shifting the narrative control away from these centralized narrative gatekeepers and into the hands of entirely new sinners and individuals like yourself, like all of those great journalists that you showed on your website, to the Dana Whites of the world, to the really true, honest podcasters, and decentralizing it out of the hands of the typical 4 corporations that used to give us all of our news. And I say news in quotes. Today we had the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, arrive at Guantanamo Bay. Today we've had twice now a former CBS journalist, Catherine Herridge, hinting that the extraordinary activities that remain hidden behind layers of classification and security at Guantanamo Bay are ramping up even. She did it right after Trump got reelected in 2024, and she's done it here recently. Okay?
Yep.
We're watching old enemies fall, new alliances form, nations once defined by conflict returning to normalized relations. 8 wars ended. Abraham Accords, anyone? 5 new top nations that are controlling almost all of Earth. You got United States and Chi are 47% of the world's GDP in just those two men. Then you throw in Russia and India and Japan. Now you're closer to 65% of the world's GDP. Oil, production, chips, pharmaceuticals, military power, land, resources, manufacturing. There's so much that I like to remind people that this meeting in China, when President Trump flew over with all these CEOs that were titans of all of these different industries, was tantamount, if not greater than, the secret cartel that went down to Jekyll Island in 1910 and invented the Federal Reserve System. Mm-hmm. What was happening in China was a discussion about the new architecture of planet Earth. It wasn't just a bunch of trade deals. It's how's this world going to operate? Capital markets, money, natural resources, energy, trade, commerce, agriculture, rocket ships, airplanes, the whole 9 yards. Everything on the table. So we have to put that type of a meeting in context. So let me finish this up real quick. There's beneath all of this, I don't think, if you've never ever read a Q drop or think it's the dumbest thing you've ever heard in your entire life, beneath all of this, there's a growing sense in the world and in America that we're being prepared for something larger than anyone has yet been told. Mm-hmm. In George Orwell's 1984, power controlled reality by controlling information. In the book The Animal Farm, the revolution became indistinguishable from the system it replaced. It was just chaos swapping for chaos. But what happens when a revolution uses transparency and clarity instead of secrecy? What happens when the public is shown everything in plain sight, even if they understand very little of it? What happens when the most important operation in modern history, the military doing drops using the Socratic method to wake up curious-minded people, wakes the world up instead of keeping them in the dark? What happens when the most important operation in modern history unfolds directly in front of the cameras? This joint military intelligence operation Q drops and Socratic method without violating any top secret security clearances, but beginning to point out the dots and point out narratives that the controlled media would never share with us. This is possibly the greatest psychological operation ever conducted, waged to defeat a godless, invisible enemy. The Q drops in the military intelligence were never designed to deceive people merely for deception's sake. It was designed to awaken us without breaking military top secret protocols and the Uniform Code of Military Justice and the continuity of government and the law of war manuals, and not breaking with what is lawful, yet waking us up from our slumber. So this weekend, to me, I want people to just stop and pause and allow themselves to just think about this for a minute. From military symbolism to media realignment, from Guantanamo Bay to the White House lawn, from global diplomacy to domestic political warfare, we've lived through a labyrinth where perception itself has been the battlefield. Every event appeared ordinary. Every event appeared explainable. Every event appeared disconnected until suddenly they didn't seem all disconnected, and we could connect all the dots and we could follow the money and we could find the central driving source and motivation of somewhere some entity wanted power and control, and they weaponized money and narrative to maintain their monopoly on power and control. So the question is not whether history is being made right now. The question is whether we can recognize it while it's happening. The story of the 21st century has already been written. One of the biggest oft repeated things in the Q drops is nothing can stop what is coming. The best analogy I can give that is you can have the biggest army in the world stand on Mount Rushmore, the Himalayan mountains, and if an avalanche starts down that mountain, there's nothing you can do to stop an avalanche. You don't have enough airplanes, bulldozers, guns, bombs, or nothing. If an avalanche comes down, nothing can stop that avalanche from coming down. That's the kind of force and momentum that's taking place in the geopolitical realm in 2026. So when the public awakens to this final chapter that's already been written, when they do, they're going to discover the biggest secret was never hidden from us at all. It's been displayed in plain sight for all who were hungry, humble, discerning, disciplined, and patient enough to endure. We had to want to know. And if we didn't, you sit on the couch and carp and mock people and think it's a joke and just go about putting on your mask and letting chaos be a normal part of your life and staying incurious. There's a certain amount of people that could not sit back and do nothing. They asked questions. They had to ask questions. They began to lead. And we took, on a much smaller scale than President Trump, slings and arrows and character assassination and disassociation from family and friends and relatives and employers. So much happened to us because we dare speak the truth in a world that's allergic to truth. I think we're going to be proven, when all said and done, John, we're going to be proven correct.
Absolutely. Listen, Captain Rob, you've raised the bar here, and I thank you for that. You just delivered, in my view, a very powerful, high-level, truthful narrative in a straight-up way for each and every one of us to enter into the concepts and facts and things that you've displayed here. And I thank you very much for that. Did you have any other images or anything else that you wanted to cover before I move you around the chessboard?
Yeah, there's one more. I'm gonna cut one of them off. That is exactly the one that I wanted to show. Can you zoom on that just a little bit? There you go. Perfect. I'll be much more brief on this one. We cannot serve two masters. What does that mean? Who are the two masters? The creator of the universe and the people that create the systems and the money. The money masters or the creator of the universe. There's one has immutable, indestructible, and indivisible laws that gravity is gravity, lift, weight, thrust, drag, gravity. These laws and principles are immutable. They're here forever. They've been here for 2,000 years. They'll be here for 2,000 years. And then you have the subjective power whores, the money folks that'll, try to tempt Jesus with, hey, just follow me and I'll give you control of all these things in the world and you'll be the most powerful guy. Just, of course, there'll be strings attached and you're going to have to do what I tell you to. When we follow the money, the breadcrumbs always go back to those that worship the money. Money is not evil. It is the love of money for the purposes of centralization, power, and control over other people. When you have a passion and a love for money, and you can centralize it and weaponize it, and then use it to regulate speech, regulate behavior, regulate food, regulate chemicals that go in your body, shut people off if they are good little boys and girls, and then incentivize them for do things that are probably not in our best interest. When you get to pervert the food pyramid, when you get to put Lucky Charms on the damn agricultural food pyramid and tell us that healthy fats like avocado are bad for us, when you get to eliminate the naturopathic industry of true health products and replace it with petrochemical petroleum products and call that health, that we can see the direction when you worship things that are man-made, you get what you get. When you worship things that are God-made that put us here, you get the blessings that come with that. Why does that matter? I want you to see where Ripple stands in this whole brand new monetary revolution. John, there's about 5 different buckets that have been taking place over the last 14 years since Ripple became a company. XRP Ledger and the XRP token were born June the 2nd of 2012. For 14 years, they have positioned themselves, the ledger, the token, the RippleNet software, and the suite of solutions to help decentralize the centralized, bring transparency to the world of secrecy, bring trustlessness to a system where trust isn't for us, it's for them. Okay? $5 quadrillion sits in the middle of 5 major industries: the DTCC, the derivatives market house, tokenization, stocks, bonds, real estate, and commodities: gold, silver, oil, natural resources. Dead in the middle of those 5 main houses, of about 5 quadrillion, that is a huge number, sits Ripple. Every one of those houses has ledger infrastructure, XRP functionality, RLUSD stablecoins, mutually consenting agreements. So I'll ask your audience to think about this just for a second. You don't have to like XRP, you don't have to like Ripple, but I want to explain something to you. Every country in the world, all 195 countries, can mutually agree that, you know what? Now that I've seen the technology and I've seen the math and I've seen the ledgering system, and the ledgering system, the XRP ledger, is owned by no company, it's owned by no nation. It's a public domain scoreboard. It's like a big, free to the world public QuickBooks. Nobody owns it, but it's a single record of truth. Now, all nations can agree, if they want to be a part of the system, to honor the truth that gets recorded on that ledger. Why is that important? Because no country has to give away 1 ounce of sovereignty by agreeing that the ledger will represent who owns what, who traded what, how much was swapped, where's the title, what date and time did value exchange hands between 2 parties. There it is on the record. It's a single source of value transfer, ownership, title, and assets. Don't have to trust Chase. Don't have to trust the Federal Reserve. Don't have to trust the City of London. Don't have to trust Jamie Dimon. Don't have to trust the CCP. All 195 countries can serve truth, because XRP in 3 to 5 seconds writes to that ledger who the 2 parties were, what the value was, what time and date did it exchange, where was it compliantly owned by me, has the title been changed, has the transaction closed and been written on the blockchain that will be there in 1,000 years from now to show a perfect record of who owns what where. Now you've got 195 nations that can operate their own currencies, have their own laws, budget however they want to budget, don't have to take a knee and kiss the ring of the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, or George Soros or anybody else. If they think there's only 2 genders, they can continue to operate their nation thinking there's only 2 genders, and not have SWIFT weaponized and shut down their capital markets liquidity because they're not agreeing with climate science or LGBTQ or 17 genders. Make America great again, make India great again, make Italy great again, make Mexico great again, make Thailand great again, make every nation great again. Independently, let people be sovereign. And John, this idea comes all the way back to the individual human being. be my own wallet, have my own assets. If I want to mutually
Mhm.
consent to trade something, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, I'm the banker. It's my wallet. If you can't tax it, you can't steal it, you can't debase it. Money equals a representation of my life and the value that I put in the world and the world gave back to me. Mutual consent, John, means two. It doesn't mean seven. Every time you swipe a credit card, there shouldn't be 4.9% and fees and taxes going to 9 different parties, because last time I checked, I was buying something from Sally across the road. When I swept the card, nobody disclosed to me there were 7 people that are going to get a part of that 4.5% when I tried to give Sally some of my money and she was going to give me a haircut or whatever the transaction was. How do we go from mutual consent to 9 parties in the middle of everything? Unless that was the design and the purpose, to steal our wealth, create friction, call it normal, write the textbooks, and tell us to accept the way money works and banks work because that's just the way it is. And it's too complicated for rubes like us to figure it out, so just shut up and obey. How about the Clarity Act, digital ledger technology, 3 to 5 second settlement, one record of truth, and everybody in the world can verify on the ledger exactly what happened between which parties, case closed. No gatekeepers, no intermediaries, no regulators, no Jamie Dimons, no SEC. The record is the record. Truth is truth. I'm free, you're free. We can trade or not trade between the two of us. And this whole busybody industrial complex that wants to tell us how to live and what to eat and where to go and how to speak and take all of our money from us in the process, that all goes away. If we think this has happened by accident or by a series of coincidences, we're not paying attention.
Now you've brought it home full circle. I can't thank you enough, Captain Rob, for the time that you just spent with our viewers. I promised our viewers in the beginning of the show that this will be among, if not one of the most educational GFRs we've ever had, and we just gotten started. We could end the show right now and call it a huge set of value, but I'm going to move you around the chessboard. That was the best high level, but yet straightforward narrative to put things into proper perspective for each and every one of us at whatever level of awareness we're at. And I appreciate that very much. You mentioned the Clarity Act. Kind of quick updates from you on the SAVE Act and the Clarity Act. Where are we at with these two acts?
Well, I am very optimistic on the Clarity Act. We're getting all the right signals out of the Senate. I believe it was on the floor today. It's being debated. There's the fear mongers. There's the yeah, but chorus. I believe, all things considered, and this is more discernment based than anything, John, is that 250 years ago, we signed a piece of parchment called the Declaration of Independence. And I believe that we have been studying that act and talking about that document and talking about the 56 signers, talking about Washington crossing the Potomac and the soldiers without shoes, walking in the snow without being paid, and all of the things that went around us birthing a republic. I believe we're at the stage of the American Republic being rebirthed, America Republic 2.0. And I do not believe that the next 250 years of generations in front of us are going to be cheated out of the date significance of July the 4th and Trump being able to sign back in a new republic so that the textbooks are rewritten, the classes are rewritten, the narratives are rewritten, the movies are rewritten, history is rewritten. And not only do we get in America life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, inalienable rights from our creator, not permissioned rights from regulatory gatekeepers and, functionaries in government. I believe that this opportunity, the dominoes and the pieces on the board are so in alignment that, you know, well, we can't get to it. It's complicated business. Maybe sometime in August, but no, I don't. It doesn't sit right with me. My discernment tells me that all the dominoes are lined up. They're going to get the 60 votes. They're going to sign it. We've already seen SBI starting to do things. We know for a fact, John, the DTCC, okay, the Trading Clearing Corporation, is bigger than BlackRock and Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan combined. It's like $144 trillion of value in the DTCC. They are 100%, no questions asked, doesn't matter about the clarity. They're starting to transition over to blockchain, where Ripple is a key part of it. The XRPL is a key part of it. There's other blockchains. There's other projects. This is never going to be a single blockchain world, but there are going to be key blockchain infrastructures. Nothing is stopping them. They're 100% green light. They're stepping into this, I believe it's July the 14th. And 3 months later, they're 100% on board. $144 trillion is transitioning from the old banking world over to the distributed ledger technology blockchain world on the 14th of July. $144 trillion. That's probably 50 times more than is operating on the blockchains today. That's with or without the Clarity Act. If we can get the Clarity Act, it gives every company in America, the leading economy in the world, board defensible clarity to start the transition and move everything over. It makes the chief legal officer happy, the board of directors happy, the board chairman happy, the CEO happy, the lawyers are happy, the bankers are happy, the regulators are happy. And there's one set of rules for every country on earth pertaining to DLT, settlement times, ISO 20022 standards, the ledger, compliance, transparency, accountability, settlement, ownership, wallets. All of it is going to be underneath the umbrella of ISO 20022, not only messaging standards, but actual value transfer, settlement, title, and ownership records. One set of protocols that look, if a nation doesn't want to do it, they don't have to do it. But if they say yes, they have to agree to the flight rules. They have to agree to the protocols. I believe we're going to see one of the greatest 4th of Julys. We are going to see, if it happens the way I think it's going to happen, John, we need to find a whole brand new mountain just for President Trump's chiseled headshot.
Sure. That can stand right behind Mount Rushmore. And Trump looking down and said, we restored the republic, Ben Franklin.
High-fiving the 5 that are already on the mountain, right? His hand can be out, or he could be doing a fist pump or something like that. But,
right.
There's too many variables the world over. There's too much adoption. There's too many contracts. There's too many Clarity Act bills. Genius. Do you remember how President Trump in his first term would sort of mock the media and play with them a little bit? And, talk about it, passing his competency test at his annual physical, and how he went to school, he aced it, nobody else did. And the doctors even said, this was in his first term. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a stable genius. Have we not passed the Genius Act, and now we're passing the stable coin?
Interesting. Yeah.
And then the Clarity Act. I mean, do we think he just called himself a stable genius in front of the media, and that wasn't a calm foretelling the Genius Act, stable coins, and the Clarity Act coming our way?
Yeah, brings it home more when you mentioned earlier the Q soundbite, nothing can stop what's coming, and use the avalanche analogy. I think that's pretty applicable to what you've just laid out in terms of how this will all end regarding the Clarity Act. it's a foregone conclusion. We just got to mechanically get there. And the dates, as you indicated, July 14th to whenever. What was that about? Highlight that one spot again.
3 months after that in October, they're 100% full bore, on the transition. There's no pilots, no testing. It's no just getting a little bit going. It's full 100% onboarding transition in October of 2026.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to move us on. I got a lot of things I want to nibble away at. We're into the second hour. As I mentioned in the monologue, I met with Juan O'Savin in Bangkok for marathon face-to-face discussions. I hadn't seen him physically in 2 years. It was quality time. These are some of the highlights I got from Juan. I'd like to have you weigh in. There's been, we're all learning, folks. We're all learning as we go. A lot of things that territories we're in, we've never been in before, or we have been, but never took them on the way we're taking them on now in truth and transparency. So having said that, it raises, a lot of confusions for people. And my objective, of course, with experts like you, Juan, and everybody else that I highlighted in the monologue are here to help ground us. And again, trust but verify, do your own homework. There's been conflicting narratives that you cannot have two currencies in the system at the same time. Let's just say America. Dollar, U.S. Treasury note, soon to be released, and Federal Reserve note, soon to die. Those are two currencies. Juan made it very clear to me off camera, and I think it's in the episode, folks. It's go to my Rumble channel. It's a week old. Go to my website. You'll find it. But I'll bring it to the surface now. Juan made it very clear. You absolutely can have two currencies, and in fact, we will. What's your take on that?
Well, I do believe there's going to have to be some transitional period of time. I mean, there's two things here. Let me frame it this way. On the long term, if I've got a V8 pickup truck that runs on regular gas, I can't just decide, I'm going to put some diesel in tomorrow. I cannot run my truck on diesel fuel if it's not a diesel engine. Okay? You cannot pour old wine into a new sack. How do we have stable coins that are sound money, that are backed by assets, 93 or less, fewer days treasury bills behind an RLUSD stable coin that is monitored, that is audited every 30 days under the auspices of the Treasury and the New York Department of Financial Services? Who wants to switch and trade stable coins backed by real assets and money printed by the City of London out of thin air? You're going to be trading a stable back real world value for something that's just ink on paper. We have to get rid of the old fake counterfeit currency for the real sound stable coin. Okay. How that happens, nobody knows. Juan's not at the table and I'm not at the table. Okay.
Correct.
Let's put another equation in here. About 97% of all money in the world is digital. About 3% of the money in the world is physical, coins and paper. That's not going to really change when we go from the old world to the new world. So now we're talking about changing digits on a screen that could be representative of. I mean, I could go to bed with $3,245 in my checking account and wake up the next morning and I'd look on my screen and it says $3,245. Do I know if that's $3,245 RLUSD, $3,245 asset, sound money, or $3,245 worth of Federal Reserve debt notes? My point being is, let's say we have 50-year bonds, gold-backed bonds, or 100-year gold-backed bonds, and we reprice gold at $20,000, and we monetize the balance sheet, and the digits that are represented on screens become digits of real-world value, because now, at some point in the future, the Treasury is going to issue these new U.S. Treasury-issued dollars with President Trump's signature in it, backed by gold or silver bonds. In the interim, we have RLUSDs that can be backed by U.S. Treasuries today. There's close to $2 billion of RLUSD. That is a stable digital dollar, a real U.S. dollar. So now what are we talking about? Are we talking about the 97% that's all digits? Are we talking about the 3% physical currency? Are we talking about when are we going to swap out the $100 bills and the 50s and the 20s and the 10s and the 5s and the 1s? Could that take a year where the rule is every vendor, everybody is going to use the old currency as if it's the real currency, but once you spend it, the change that comes back to you will be new. And as it circulates through time, now the physical currency slowly over 12 months is eliminated. The only thing anybody has left is the new U.S. Treasury dollars. That's just a theory. I'm not saying I know that it's going to work that way, but my point is, I can go 6 weeks and not pull $1 or a quarter out of my pocket and tap and go and use my credit card and get coffee and get gas and go to dinner, go to the airport, get on an airplane, go to Starbucks at the airport and get some coffee. And I don't know the last time I had any dollars in my hands. And I'm not saying that we have to go all digital, but my point is we can go to sound money where the Treasury is now the issuer of our currency. The United States Treasury becomes our central bank. And the City of London and their godless stepson or grandchild, known as the Federal Reserve, can go straight to hell. We don't need a third-party issuer, a non-governmental organization in control of issuing our sovereign currency. That has to go away if we want to have true sovereignty. We cannot be a republic and cannot be a nation if we don't produce, own, control, and distribute our own sovereign monetary units of value. Judy Shelton believes this. Scott Bassett believes this. Sound money advocates believe this. The movie that I was blessed to be in with G. Edward Griffin called Money Disrupted. Just Google it, look it up, or you can go to the website Fruition Productions. It's a 2-hour, 250-year educational documentary on the history of money in America for 250 years, and you'll find out exactly how we lost our country, how the perverts invaded us, how they installed their own monetary control system on us, divided us, conquered us, made us sick, made us lazy, put us in $39 trillion of debt. We all have to ask ourselves, how does a 1 square mile area in the City of London, how are they owed $39 trillion? They don't build anything, create anything, grow anything, distribute anything, invent anything. They don't do anything except control the capital markets and pervert the capital markets and the currency markets and the liquidity markets around the world. They're in charge. It's their system, and we're all slaves to a system that is built on deception, division, destruction, and lust for power and control. John, everything that's taken place in the Strait of Hormuz, if people would just do this for a day, never say Iran again, just say City of London. The City of London's Hormuz Strait, the City of London's oil tankers, the City of London shot missiles in the Gaza Strip, the City of London's threatening to go to war with Saudi Arabia. The City of London is, because the City of London controls that proxy Iranian mullah government. And this is about money and power and control and the energy leverage that exists with 20% of the energy going around the Strait of Hormuz. They get to play their version of chess and control and weaponization and fear and geopolitics by owning Iran, scaring the shit out of everybody, having Iran point missiles at 12 countries, and always be 2 weeks away from nuclear Armageddon and the next war starting. And this is not Iran acting independently because Iran wants to do it. This is the City of London using their thugs to keep the world unstable. If people would understand that and don't listen to me, go to Promethean Action. Stay here, watch your shows, watch your incredible guests that you have here. If you really want to get to the root of what's going on geopolitically and monetarily from the City of London controlling all the world's central banks and all the monetary policy the world over, the ladies at Promethean Action are brilliant.
Well, thank you. Truth bombs, you're getting them right here. I want to move on to some other issues related. This new Treasury note that you're alluding to with the president's signature and so forth. Pretty much everything that you've said it was in such a way expressed by Juan as well. Not that he's the measure of everything, but it's nice to see that great minds think alike on how this transition may play out. I will say this, just me personally, a lot of people are saying that this new Treasury note will come out sometime this month, June, or by July 4th. That's a date specific on something gargantuan that hasn't been stated officially by the administration. I caution you, those that may be expecting that within that time frame. Remember, in my monologue, expect the unexpected. Don't have these anticipations in the rumor world. Let's see what happens. I'd love it to be presented on July 4th or June 24th or whatever the date may be. But Juan's in the camp that that's not going to happen. I'd like to talk about the third takeaway from Juan was the EBS. A lot of talk about the EBS, and there is a difference between the EAS and the EBS, which I've learned about. But at the end of the day, Juan was very clear that that is not going to happen in June or July in his crystal ball. And he lays down the reasons for it. Same things he laid down the reasons for why we're not ready to release the Treasury note just yet. Things have to be done first in preparation for those moves to take place. And according to what Juan sees and according to what Juan knows, he takes a different approach on this. And I'm not trying to make separation. I'm trying to bring unity. Again, folks, don't expect things if it isn't official from the administration. Do your homework, vet, follow programs like this, and come to your own conclusions. And don't be disappointed if something doesn't happen on a specific date. That's the statement on the EBS. And the last thing that Juan put out there that's ruffling some feathers, not too many, is that we may experience, and I'm saying may to be gentle, he was pretty much emphatic, strong about it, a potential delay in the midterm elections. Now, it's a long time between now and then in a very fluid war. And as you stated, Rob, Juan does have a seat at the table on occasion, but mostly we don't get direct memos from the president. We're not at that table. But what's your take, just out of sheer curiosity? Do you think we could have a delay? Juan says could be a long pause, 6 to 12 months for midterms. Hey, it may or may not happen. What's your take briefly? Because I want to move into some other areas.
Sure. Well, the good news is Juan and I can't get divided or separated because I don't have a stake in the ground. So he may be right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not advocating for yes or no one way or the other. I understand on the EBS thing, there's a tolerance and there's a pace. What's the capacity for the average person to be able to understand what's going on? Is there going to be some 8-hour a day, 3 days a week, 24 hours a day for 7-day kind of broadcast and confessions and all these sort of I seriously doubt it'll happen that way. Will the information be freely available to those who want to go and get it? I do believe that'll happen at some time. There's been a form of EBS going on since the Q drop started. If you want to look at the media, from the bottom up, decentralized loud voices, decentralized loud teachers, DLT. That's been going on since the Q drop started in October of 2017. So there's a lot of us out there that are paying attention to every variable, and it changes equations. Will this be formalized in textbook/movie style? Look, Steve Mnuchin used to be the Treasury Director, and he was in Hollywood. He did movies. He's a big-time movie producer. I've never seen a president with a media staff and the output of the quality of the videos and the images and the pictures and the music and the backdrops. This is grade A Hollywood quality stuff. Do they have enough out there to to tell this story that will last for 100 years about what has happened over the last, they absolutely have that capacity. When is it going to happen? No idea. Okay. Move into
Yep.
the election. Look, we've closed the borders. I think as President Trump has said, I don't think there's been a single crossing in the last 6 or 7 months. Okay.
Beautiful.
Los Angeles is showing us that the federal elections have been perverted again. And it's a federal issue
Yes,
with
indeed.
federal prosecutors on the ground. And people need to understand that if you can't control your elections, you don't have a nation. If you attack the vital national infrastructure known as our election system, that is an act of war, and it is an act of a crime of treason. So we have federal investigators checking up on an obviously, blatantly felonious attack on the national infrastructure of America in Los Angeles right now. Trump has said he can declare with his War Powers Act and his commander-in-chief status and our national emergency status that our election system has been invaded by Venezuela, Cuba, the CCP. We can't get it out. We now know that it's corrupted, that it's not under our control, and we can no longer use it as a system of reliable governance. So therefore, we're going to have same-day voting, voter ID, proof of citizenship on one day. Now, what do we not know? How crazy might the other side get? How terroristic might they get? How much damage might they? We can never know every counter move of our adversary. Could that delay the elections? Don't know. Doubt it. Hope it doesn't. Elections are important for a stable government, but one of the things that President Trump has done so brilliantly is put so much corruption, so much fraud, waste, and abuse, so much political treason, so much incompetency out in the public for everyone to see it. We get to the point, John, where people are so pissed off right now. Show me the arrest. Nothing's happening. They're not looking at the things that as deeply as you and I and many of us are. They want a headline from CNN. They want a front cover report. They want to see the arrest, the convictions, the people getting the electric chair. And until they see enough people get the electric chair, they're going to say nothing's happening. Okay. But what does that
Correct.
do? The reverse side of that, John, is by the time we have got to go and arrest the Gavin Newsoms and the Adam Schiffs and the Chicago mayors and the idiots that are doing the Dominion people that have been paid off, the Brian Kemps of Georgia, these asshats out of Fulton County and Maricopa County and all of these places. You know what the public's going to say? What the hell took you so damn long? Why didn't you do it sooner instead of, oh, Trump's just exercising political revenge. This is a banana republic. It's a military coup. What's happening is the public is begging and demanding he do the things he needs to do, which is far better for the cohesion and strength of our nation than him doing it and then trying to explain it to people. It goes back to sometimes you can't tell the people, you have to show them. We have to let people, the vast majority of people, see the trafficking, see the illegal fraud, waste, and abuse, see the open borders, see the bioweapon attacks, see the fake wars in the Hormuz Strait, see the City of London bankers activate their agents against us.
Yes.
So that when we get to the point that we're sick and tired of being sick and tired of it, we want Trump and the military to do something, they are cheering us on instead of questioning our judgment.
Yes, thank you. Help me connect some dots here, moving us around here. Elon Musk. I'm going to throw a lot of things at a white marker board and have you tie it together for us in a summary. We're being introduced to off-world assistance and opposition, with the files being released since Dwight Eisenhower, and all the data that's entered into these files and top secret to present time. Our transparent president is bringing that to the surface. We have AI and robotics, which Elon Musk talks quite a bit about in great detail. That when AI and robotics over the next few years dominates the workforce around the world, what happens to 7, 8 billion people, or whatever the number is? Some say it's much less than that. What are they going to do? Well, Musk says you won't have to save any more money. Musk says you don't have to work. You can if you choose to. Musk talks about universal high income, and he used the word high very specifically. Wealth repatriation, we've learned about. IRS taxes that were fraudulent and illegal and unconstitutional that are going to be potentially repatriated back to us. We've seen those signals from the president. We've seen those signals from Scott Bessent, and we've seen insights from guests like yourself and others. The birth certificate, I did an episode with Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox on that, citing quotes from Woodrow Wilson and how all that played out. That's a lot of money coming back to the people. And then you have potentially some of the other fraudulent paper that we've all been involved in with the banksters. So when you look at all of that, it seems like impossible, and people can't even fathom that that is actually what is under the current and taking place. And those are massive statements. Tie all that on a marker board together, and what does it look like to you for the average person, certainly the average American, and will it be for citizens of the world beyond we Americans? And one last thing, the notion of AI and robots, I think that's a very, very important piece. And you talk about a plan. This stuff isn't just happening willy-nilly. They've known about AI and robotics for years. They know where this thing is heading. And that at the same time, they take exposing everything, as you just stated, and getting us back high universal income, repatriation of wealth. We can do humanitarian projects. Parents can raise their children. People can be healthy. People can be wealthy. As you said, the whole word is sovereignty. Scarcity versus abundance as God intended. That's what I see on this marker board. What do you see?
Abundant sovereigns with free will and more resources than we can even fathom. Quantum abundance is real. The biggest lie in the world has been we have a scarce universe. We're running out of land. You got to eat bugs. You got to ride a bicycle. You got to live in 15-minute cities. And climate science is killing us all. The religion of fear, the religion of scarcity, and the religion of climate science, that as determined by the gatekeepers, are the look. Everything is a tool. Fire is a tool. A wheel, was a technology, right? We got ATM machines and the number of banking employees went up. The internet came along and we unlocked the monopoly that central powers had on data and communications, data and video. Revolutionized the world. So the big three were the Gutenberg press, the internet, and now we're going to have the internet of value. The internet of value is going to provide transparency on every form of value and ownership and title and personal wealth and property the world over. So I think we just can't even comprehend how much wealth is out there and has been stolen. Every ounce of gold and every ounce of silver that's ever been dug up and mined and found is out there. Land, food, water, invention, creativity, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. There's no math is unlimited. There's never a last number in math. We have unlimited creativity to think and invent. We were put here to create and produce fruit abundantly, love, serve, grow, garden our own Eden, live by certain rules and laws and protocols and principles, live and let live, serve one another, live and let, I mean, this idea of scarcity and hoarding and running out of things and coagulating everything in a pool and not letting it flow and not distributing it, not having a mentality of reciprocity is the law book, John, is split into a 60-40 split. 60% of it is laws and principles. Who are we? Whose are we? How are we made? Why are we here? Energy, vibration, frequency. Christ said, these things I've done, you can do, and even greater things. We have the same Father, me and him and me, us and them, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. We're all together if we're on the right frequency, if we're connected. If we're disconnected and jointed and think we need a gatekeeper and a permission slip or a membership form or pay tithes and go to an expert outside of us, then we're not sovereign anymore. We're dependent on others doing our thinking for us, and we lose our relationship with our Creator, and we become dependent on those that issue permission slips. That never ends well. So technology is going to unlock our human potential, our creativity, our ability to find our passion, be a drummer, be a guitar player, be a teacher, be a heart surgeon, be an airline pilot, be a movie producer, love and serve well to our fullest ability, garden our own Eden, take care of our own sovereign homes, sovereign families, sovereign communities. And the more and more we show competency, the more and more, responsibility we'll garner. But if I can't take care of myself, what the hell am I doing running for mayor? If I can't take care of my own family's shit, but I'm going to be the governor of Georgia, how the hell do we teach ourselves that those are the kind of, you don't have to really show any mastery in anything, just get the job with a title and a badge. It's like,
and a paycheck.
So I believe is correct. There's infinite creativity. There's infinite potential. There's infinite, limits to the things that Nikola Tesla has taught, that the sages and prophets throughout the years have taught. So we have to master ourselves. This is a war of consciousness. It's a war of identity. If we don't know who we are and whose we are lost in space. And we've have to make it a priority. I use this scriptural teaching all the time that the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. What we have to do is harvest the minds of helping people reacquaint themselves with who they are, whose they are, what relationship access they have, how they can be sovereign, how they were made for purpose. You and I, John, are not an accident being here any more than two rocks collided and accidentally created Earth. There's a purpose to Earth. There's a purpose to you, purpose to me. Do we need to find it? Yeah. Do we need to seek with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength and find our purpose? We absolutely do. Do we need to get 900 permission slips a year from our government betters? I haven't read that anywhere in the book. I don't need to live by regular permission slips.
I think with all the changes that I set you up to have this commentary that I threw at that marker board, results in what you just stated is a lot of folks are thinking, well, we won't work. What will we do? Well, we will become the creative. We'll take our innate gifts, talents, and abilities from our Creator and put them to good use and start living life the way it was intended. Again, we're into the second hour. I want to move on a couple of more points. Real quick on this, Rob, the Federal Reserve and the IRS, would you be which side of the camp, if you want to put it that way, or maybe they're all one and the same, but are they being repurposed and redirected to be used to serve the people, or are they being completely shut down?
Yeah, well, I believe the IRS is a thing. It's a dead institution walking. I don't believe Trump has spoken quite a bit about it. That we had to have committees and and special subcommittees, and you couldn't give away all the wealth that we created from the abundance that was the American system prior to 1913. We could not give, we created so much as an economic engine of force that that's going to come back, and we're going to have so much excess that, again, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, a direct tax on the American people is blatantly black and white unconstitutional. This whole trickeration of Social Security is becoming our employee number and classifying us as resident aliens of the United States of America, which is actually the 10 square mile federal district. All of this was deceptive language, redefining terms, creating a book of nonsense and jamming it down our throats. That's all going away. A direct taxation on the American people is unconstitutional, full stop. Okay? The language and the perverted definitions used to get a bill, a code, a statute, an agency, a practice, whatever they want to call it, they can use all of these different, fancy sounding terms and sign codes. And look, what did the Chevron Doctrine do? The Chevron Doctrine said, no, you can't just delegate lawmaking, legislative rulemaking to all of these never-ending swamp agencies and the regulators to decide what's law, rule, code, ordinance, best practice, and do all these things. No, it's not the way it works. Law is done in the House of Representatives. It's debated, it's passed and signed by the president. That's the way laws are made. You don't get to fluff it off to 1,700 different agencies in the swamp and call it doing your job. They changed the process by taking advantage of our ignorance, our lack of attention, or our just not giving two dams. But the fact that we let our republic and our constitutional form of government slip out of our hands put us in this fine mess. Now we have to get rid of it. And look, the last thing a swamp, centralized, narcissistic, power-hungry, control-freak government needs is more money. It needs to have a tiny amount of money to steward the very minimal things it's supposed to steward, and the rest of the wealth is supposed to stay in the hands of the individual and in the state. So the IRS is going away. The Federal Reserve, look, it's a fraudulent institution in and of itself. Might they keep the name and it be a suite of technologies or protocols or some kind of magic box that it keeps its name, but it doesn't really have any function. It's not dealing with M1, M2 money supply. They don't have interest rate committees there that determine what the centralized interest rates are going to look. However it ends, it will look and function nothing like what we've had to endure since 1913. The best I can tell you is that's the best I can give you. I don't know exactly what the end chapter looks like, but it's going to be defanged, decapitated, and most of its appendages are going to be cut off.
Excellent. I'd like to wind this episode down at this time. There was two other topics. One in particular, I had scripted out a lot of detailed questions for folks like myself, the layman, when it comes to the world of crypto. A lot of language, a lot of different things that I know for sure the public is confused about because they're telling me that. We've run out of time to get into that because it deserves the time. I'd like my producer to contact you and see if you and I can just do a special broadcast on that subject off of the GFR and see if we can put that together. I'd like to close this out with first and foremost thanking you for your heartfelt, passionate, biblically grounded, and wise analysis of where we are at. Again, raising the bar and but delivering important, complicated information in a way that all of us can understand. And I greatly appreciate that in you. What's your closing? Here, I've got a glass of water here. Is it half full or is it half empty? A lot of people are thinking that the circumstances we find ourselves in today, that the glass is half empty. What's your advice and message of hope for our viewers?
There aren't enough glasses to hold all the water that's coming our way.
Perfect.
I would like to, John, I want to point people to a website. It's called the National Cryptocurrency Association, but the website's really easy. nca.org. nca.org. It is an amazing educational site, interactive tools. You can go on that, John, and click on it and see, okay, 1 in 4 Americans own crypto. You can click on your state and then look at the voting district and go, oh, 264,000 people in my district own crypto. It will teach you what a stable coin is, what a crypto is, what a smart contract is, what a stable coin is. It is a treasure trove. So I would just encourage people, take this classroom assignment on, don't fluff it out. Learn it for yourself. Once you own the understanding, you own it for life. Equip and empower yourself. Don't just go let a knucklehead like me tell you about it and then you forget it next week. If you don't understand it, you don't own it. And if you don't own something, you don't get ownership rights. You don't get the benefits of owning a home. If I don't own a car, I don't get to do what I want with it. If I don't own my understanding of what's a wallet, what's a stable coin, what's a yield, what's a swap, what's a trade, what's a utility token versus a payment token. If you won't take this time to learn for yourself, you have no basis to bitch and moan and complain and outsource your problems to others because you wouldn't take the time to learn it. This is our new financial system, and it will be with us until we take our last breath. So everybody ought to just go ahead and accept that and start getting about learning more about it.
Thank you. nca.org, great resource. We're going to put that up on our website, on our resource guide page, once I take a peek at it, but I'm sure it'll be up there. And perhaps when we do a special broadcast, if we can put that together with you, we'll feature that site on there, and maybe we'll even turn it into a Q&A if I'm able to do that. But I want to thank you, Captain Rob Cunningham, for some great content. As I promised our viewers in the beginning, this is going to be an extremely educational broadcast, and it has certainly lived up to that. So thank you, sir, for your service in armed forces and your service in civilian life, because as you well know, that oath you took never sunsets. And we thank you very much for your time and your expertise and your bravery. I know you have no fear. That is obvious, and that is good. So thank you, sir. I'll be right back with an important announcement on action items for those of you to get off the couch, protect and preserve your assets, eliminate the dangers, and seize the opportunities through this transition. Thank you, Captain Rob. I'll be right back.
Thank you, John.
Retirees require income that keeps pace with inflation, income that is guaranteed and cannot be outlived. In Module 4 of the Wealth Coach University, you will learn how to secure not a maybe fluctuating income stream, but rather the income stream you need and want by design. Knowledge is key. Applied knowledge is wisdom. Take the first step and avail yourself the Module 4. Got questions? Schedule your Wealth Coach consult with John Michael Chambers. Maintaining the lifestyle you desire requires due diligence and action on your behalf.
Hello, this is John Michael Chambers. Many people lost faith, trust, and confidence in Wall Street, the banks, and financial advisors. Learn how you can secure a guaranteed income that you can never outlive. Better a little caution than a great regret. Check out Module 4 at wealthcoachuniversity.com, and I do look forward to speaking with you. It's time. Action changes things. Saving America and protecting and preserving your assets is not a spectator sport, Here's a quick checklist for you of resources, in addition to the resources you've learned in this broadcast. Number one, wealthcoachuniversity.com, 10 free video modules, evergreen, but very important material. I discuss GOOTS, Goots, how to get out of the system through this transition, seizing the opportunities and eliminating the landmines and dangers. 10 free video modules. Please check them out. Number two, jmcbroadcasting.com. Click on Library of Truth at the navigation bar, and there's tabs on anything you want to learn about, deep dive documentaries and broadcasts, not by me, but by others. And there's probably over 100 of them there, broken down by Saving the Children, to Robert David Steele videos, to the economy as it relates to this broadcast. So jmcbroadcasting.com, Library of Truth, click on the tab Economy for additional information and education for you. Next is Brandon Clark. He is part of my resource network, Triad. You see it on the screen, the entire show on the bottom left, triadretire.com. Great gentleman, highly qualified. He's got an MBA. He also knows his business. He's a retirement planning specialist. Give him a call, mention my name, get a free consult, and you can learn how to participate in market indexed growth with zero downside, and understand the risks and rewards and trade-offs for that, as well as guaranteed income plans you cannot outlive. This is a heads up for those in retirement. Brandon Clark. Number four, Bill Armour. You all know about Bill, acquiring gold and silver. Talk about your his team can help you with asset liquidations, rollovers, and so forth, but get your questions answered. It's a buyer beware market. Take that to the bank. Number five is JMC. That's me, Wealth Coach. I am offering for a brief period of time. Once we get past all these transitions, I'm going to unplug this service because I don't have the hours in the day to do it, but I've been doing about a low of 4 or 5 appointments a month to a high and max of 8. I just met a wonderful gentleman in England, and he's probably watching. You know who you are, sir. I enjoyed the discussion. You can gain access to me, not for investment advice, but for consulting and coaching and access to a resource network. Visit wealthcoachuniversity.com. There's a mechanism to meet with me on a private Zoom to discuss the deep state, any questions you have about what's going on, where I might be helpful, and particularly put on my old financial advisor hat, minus the advice, and walk you through the questions and concerns that you have in this transition. So those are some action items. Next week, our good friend Alex Newman returns. I've known Alex 10 years. He was with us at American Media Periscope. Fire hose of information. I look forward to introducing Will and Bill to Alex Newman. He'll join us as well next week. Will Barney, Bill Armour, and Alex Newman right here live on the GFR. All right, you can sign up for free at JMC let's talk about Christy Lee. Christy Lee, this is the truth about healthcare. We're taking that on at JMC Broadcasting, weekly show, and then moving into 2 different panels with 2 different approaches. The truth about healthcare premieres June this month at JMC Broadcasting with your show host, Christy Lee. You definitely want to start tuning into this because this is very important. What do I focus on mainly? Health and wealth, military, intelligence, economic, and now healthcare experts. Trust me, we know all the best doctors and scientists and filmmakers. And Christy Lee, phenomenal show host, will be asking the right questions to bring you the right information. So that's basically it. You can sign up for free at jmcbroadcasting.com, free weekly newsletter, my free JMC Unplugged. You can consider Premium Portal and get to see our power guests in our private Zoom room each and every month. I'm going to sign off. It's been about a 2-hour broadcast. I hope you found this educational, informative, and inspirational. And if you do, share it far and wide. Stay safe, everyone, and may God be with you.
The Truth About Health premieres this month as a weekly JMC Broadcasting production with Christy Lee as your show host. Christy Lee is an award-winning former mainstream news anchor and independent journalist with more than 20 years of experience in broadcasting. Honored as Best Anchor and Best Enterprise Reporting honors, she later anchored at a Fox affiliate in California before walking away from legacy media after witnessing its deepening lack of journalistic integrity and shift toward propaganda. Christy is a fearless voice for the voiceless and a staunch advocate for holding power accountable. She's been featured on Fox News, The Bongino Report, InfoWars, Lindell TV, and numerous independent platforms nationwide. She has interviewed high-profile figures including RFK Jr., Dr. Robert Malone, General Michael Flynn, Ron Paul, Carrie Lake, and many more. The Truth About Health premieres June 2026 as a weekly JMC Broadcasting production. This weekly broadcast features expert doctors, scientists, and healthcare professionals. We don't reject science, we go further in it. We go beyond symptoms, headlines, and hype, bringing you the truth about what actually heals the body. Thorough healthcare coverage, including new technologies, legislation, and justice, will also be addressed. Sign up for free at jmcbroadcasting.com and tune into The Truth About Health with Christy Lee, only on jmcbroadcasting.com.